I'm Dr. Charity Waithima. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I am the chair, Counselling Psychology Department at African Nazarene University. I do both teaching and I do therapy. Sometimes students come to us, and sometimes people from out there will come for therapy to me. So that is mainly what I do, contributing to mass education, either through media or whatever other means. So that is who I am. Depression is a mood disorder. What we mean by a mood disorder is that somebody wakes up and feels sad or feels low. So that is depression. We have different mood disorders, but the main ones is depression and bipolar. So depression is, we call it a unipolar disorder because somebody is low in terms of the feelings and the thoughts. So somebody feels low. Okay, depression, you know, there is a general feeling low. You wake up and probably it is a day that you don't expect much, or somebody is not looking forward to something good, and that you can feel low. And every human being goes through that. But when we define depression in terms of psychology, the criteria is somebody has to have those low feelings for 2 weeks. And mainly it's accompanied by feelings of lethargy, sadness, somebody cries very easily, somebody gets agitated, somebody's appetite or eating changes. They can either eat more or eat less. Their sleep patterns change and all that. So I need to qualify what we call clinical depression vis-a-vis what people just wake up and say, I feel depressed. So when somebody just says, I feel depressed, that does not qualify to be depression. But clinically, we have a criteria for depression, and those are some of the things you look out for. Now, when we look at the youth or the young people, especially the millennials and the post-millennials, those are people who have been born from the 80s all the way to the millennials, all the way to around the year 2000, and the post-millennials after that up to where we are at. They are exposed to depression, the feeling of despondency, because of the lifestyle and the social influence and environment they are in. If we look at how the millennials have been brought up and the post-millennials, the parents did everything for them. And the parents worked so hard, and I'm not blaming the parents. They did what they thought they would do to love their children and to do to them beyond what their parents did for them. However, what that has done is that the millennials and the post-millennials have not developed life skills to cope with the stresses of life. They've not developed resilience. Some of the life skills that help someone to cope with life are like, coping skills, problem solving, decision making, whereby if a problem comes to you, how do I navigate it? But because for the millennials, most of them, the parents did everything for them and solved their problems, they find it so hard. A little stress looks insurmountable for them. And therefore, they feel hopeless, they feel helpless, and that brings about depression. That is one of the major things that is causing depression among the millennials. There's a lot of competitiveness. And this has been brought about by especially social media. So a millennial cares so much about who they are and how they look. And because in social media, a girl will post her figure, she looks like she has it all. the figure that is needed, size 8 or whatever size, the smooth skin and everything is flowing. And a millennial somewhere will be looking and they probably have some weight and they'll be feeling, oh, I don't match my generation. And therefore, social media influence has really contributed to depression among the millennials and the post-millennials. The other thing technology has done is social isolation. We are human beings, whether we are in the Y generation, the X generation, millennials or post-millennials. Whether we lived in those archaic times, we are human beings from the beginning. A human being is a social being, is a social organism. You can't live on your own, you can't live on gadgets. What technology has done is to bring in what we call social isolation for the young people. And that's a major cause of depression, because as they watch the competitiveness among, their peers on social media, they don't have a face-to-face interaction to someone to be able to talk to and to feel that they are needed. In psychology and in therapy, there is something we call touch therapy. I know sometimes we can manipulate technology to feel like somebody is touching you, but you need the real touch from a person and the real relationship face to face. So social isolation is another issue. Then there is a lot of, people wanting the young people to achieve what we call high expectations. In earlier years, especially because most parents were not educated, especially from an African context, nobody bothered to tell you that you have to get this A, you have to do what, but now there are very high expectations for the millennials and the post-millennials. Everybody expects you to get a high grade. Everybody expects you to be in the what we used to call big 5 careers. Everybody expects you, when you start working, to drive a big car. Everybody expects you to live in what we would call a good environment. We don't expect you to be living in an area where we look at as a low socioeconomic status environment. And therefore, all these high expectations, whether from the peers, from the society, from the parents, from whatever source, is another cause of depression among the millennials and the post-millennials. And somebody feels, I cannot meet these expectations. What will that do to a person? They get low self-esteem because they start doubting themselves. We call it self-doubt. And therefore they feel, I don't match up, I'm useless. That creates feelings again of despondency and of sadness because somebody has full self-doubt and they no longer know who they are. Those are just some of the causes. Sometimes it can be physiological, and because of the diet and the lifestyle that we are exposed to, the millennials are exposed to, sometimes depression has been brought about by physiological issues. Okay, for the millennials and the post-millennials, we cannot treat them the way we treated the X, the Y generation, and the generations before them. Because we are already saying they do not have capacity. Society and us parents have not empowered them enough to be able to overcome the stressors or the challenges of their age. One, awareness is very critical, such that the parents or the people that are caring for the millennials and the millennials themselves, they need to be aware. Because as long as you have insight of what you're going through in life, then it is very easy to overcome a challenge, such that the parents, the caregivers, the education institutions, we need to train the millennials on coping skills, such that they are aware life is not a walk in the park, because they have been brought up when you need something, it's available. But we need to make them aware that that is not what life is constituted of. So awareness is very critical. Let somebody know you can get ill and you have no money to go to hospital. Let somebody know you can work so hard. It doesn't mean you have to get an A. And you are still a good human being with that A or not. You can do a diploma course. You don't have to have a degree, and you're still successful in life. You need to know that you can lose a job. You need to know that you can go without food. So all that constitutes something that makes a young person know it's not something that is insurmountable. These are issues that come to human beings, and coping skills are critical. Let us expose them to issues that help them develop problem-solving skills. Because when you cannot solve a problem, you feel helpless, you feel you're not capable, and you feel the world has come to an end. So some of those are simple skills that when we make them aware and we empower them, they can easily be able to cope with them. We need also to change the social environment, such that even as we use social media and technology, we make the whole society, and not just around us, but globally, aware that we also need to present the other side of a human being. Somebody coming up to say, I went through this and this is how I overcame, so that somebody does not think this is just me. So what we call psychoeducation is very critical, and people knowing the challenges that come to a human being and how to mitigate them. So those are some of the ways we can be able. I know you said 5, but there are many ways that we can be able to mitigate this. Psychotherapy is a major thing. When you feel sadness, you're not sleeping well, something is disturbing you, it is going for more than 2 weeks, please see a therapist, because counseling helps. Because mainly they may be distorted thoughts, and a therapist is able to help you be able to identify and to challenge some of those distorted thoughts in order for you to align your thoughts with being able to cope with the stressors. And in case it is a physiological thing, when you talk to someone, then you are able to probably be made aware. It may be something that may require a medical doctor, and when it is mitigated by use of medication again, it easily helps the person to go through the process without seeing or feeling like depression is the end of life. I would tell the people that asking for help is not weakness. The people who are dealing with millennials and post-millennials, like I've said earlier, we need to understand them, because what is exacerbating the problem is the older generation or the people dealing with the youth not understanding that they are living in a dispensation where they've not been empowered, and where everything looks like it is something they will not be able to overcome. So someone dealing with the youth, appreciating where they are coming from and entering into their world to be able to understand what is it that has brought about these distorted thoughts that are challenging you. Walking with the person side by side so that you're able to empathically walk with them and feel for them, reassure them, and be able to make sure that as you walk with them, they are not feeling like you're judging them. Because if we do not do that, then this is what is bringing about high levels of suicide And we can see in the media, we are seeing that a lot of the millennials are ending their lives. And this is simply because when they get depressed, they feel there's nothing life can offer. I'm better off dead. And you see something that we need to understand too, even as we help the youth, is that the life they have lived is a life of a quick fix. And so suicide becomes a quick fix too for them. And when you're aware of that, we are not going to tell a youth, if you want to kill yourself, then go ahead. We need to get into their world, understand where they are coming from. They have been used to quick fixes. Can we be able to hold their hands and gradually be able to let them know a challenge does not mean the end of life? So somebody who wants to help a youth who is in depression, they have to get into their world and understand where they are coming from and be able to empower them and to challenge those distorted thoughts for them to be able to understand where they need to go. Therefore, in African Nazarene University, we have endeavored to come up with counseling psychology programs all the way from diploma, undergraduate degree to postgraduate degrees, where we train people on the skills. They are very key people who deal with young people, the millennials and the post-millennials, from the teachers in schools, the ministers in church, community workers, and several other people who have the interest of the youth at heart. I would recommend that you need to be endowed and empowered with a skill. We deal with courses that give you skill to be able to help and understand things like neuropsychology, medical conditions, and things that destabilize people. If you registered for such a course at whatever level, I'm sure you'll be skilled and given the techniques to use in order to help the youth that you're dealing with. And especially I want to call upon the church. Sometimes we have used the Bible and not looked at a holistic human being. Sometimes the youth are getting depressed and committing suicide because of being made to feel guilty that they have sinned against God. And in our counseling psychology department, we do an integration course between psychology, culture, and religion, where we can be able to help you even as either a faith-based organization that works with youth or a church leader or a church worker. Some of those courses will help you to understand how you can be able to help the youth without inflicting guilt that will exacerbate their depression and the desire to commit suicide. This has been a 5-minute therapy with your therapist, Dr. Charity Waithima from African Nazarene University Counseling Psychology Department.